Oh, how are you doing? I'm good. My prayers were heard.
There she is. I can hear her coming in. Okay. Great. Let's get started. I think it's time 9:30 on a Monday morning. Um, Welcome to Neuroccino, the first one of 2025. Couple of updates and a review of the rules. So update is that Eva has been busy pushing our Neuroccino episodes onto Spotify for a podcast, so you can now listen to it and close the phone so you can commute with Neuroccino. Thanks for doing that. There is 2 episodes per week that will be published until we catch up to today, basically. That's the update. Then we have a CNS talk by Tim Derby in the first week of February. And the rules of the game, just a little recap. Don't present your own papers. Present it to the best of your knowledge. We'll interpret and ask questions to the best of our knowledge. And the idea is that there is no stupid questions. So chances are, if you don't understand it, someone else also didn't understand it. That's about it. Today we have Chris, who's going to talk about something LLMs. And he just shared the link in the chat so you can all have a look. Chris, when you're ready, take it away.
All right. So I found this little paper. It's actually not. It's pretty short. But I thought we could start the year with a light topic. And it will. I hope it's going to spark a little bit of a discussion also. So the paper is short, but it's interesting in the questions that it sparks, I feel. So the idea of the paper is to use LLMs, so ChatGPT, but also other models. So they listed them in the participants. So ChatGPT, 2 versions, 4 and 4.0, 4.0. Claude 3.5 from Anthropic, Gemini from Alphabet, Google, and they made these LLMs pass the MoCA test. So the test for cognitive to measure cognitive impairment, and it's a very standard and broadly used test. And we'll see that there are some limitations, but it's also interesting to see what's happening to these models. So, to their knowledge, it's not been done before. I don't think I've seen. I mean, I'm following a little bit these topics, and I didn't see other papers doing that. I think, yeah, there are some reasons why they are not doing that. Um, but basically, they try to give the MoCA tests to the LLMs, but of course, they had to do some changes because I mean, I'm not. I'm never seeing patients, so I don't know exactly how it works, but you have to give the patients the instructions by with voice, and the LLMs, they primarily work with text. They could take the voice, but it's like inconsistent, so they didn't bother with the voice, so they are just using the text. But the MoCA test also includes some visual tasks. So they had to be a little bit clever with how they provide the tests to the LLMs, because now all the LLMs that they studied have the possibility to take pictures, but to various degrees. And even with that ability, they had to sometimes ask the LLM to use ASCII art, which is basically a way to draw with letters. So it's been done for a while. Well, I mean, probably since we have computers and we can type stuff on a screen. Maybe even better, even before probably. So basically, you can draw like a house, but with the walls will be made out of letters. You just place them at the right place on the page, and you can make drawings. And that's what they asked some LLMs to do because sometimes they were overdoing it. I can show an example of one figure. So the I and J figure are produced by I think it's ChatGPT. Yeah, it's ChatGPT 4 and 4.0. So when asked to draw a cube, ChatGPT was like overdoing it and making something amazingly detailed with shadows and stuff. Unfortunately, it was not the task. Because the task was to draw the cube in a specific orientation, and the LLM. So that's also one criticism I have for on the paper is that the LLMs are just one part of. If we talk about ChatGPT, the whole thing, the whole tool, it's not only an LLM. The visual part of ChatGPT is a different model. It's just ChatGPT that interfaces with. I'm pretty. I think I think this DALI that they use, and DALI I think is a diffusion model, so it's a different type of machine learning model that is specialized for visual tasks. So it's not really one model that they are evaluating in that case. But anyway, the experiment is still interesting to do, I feel. And also, so I don't know if it's part of the MoCA, or if they are just, I don't know if they are detailing the different parts of the MoCA, or if they added some tasks, but they have a task called the Navon figure, the cookie theft picture, um, and I'm not going to pronounce that. So they have different visual tasks. So I don't know if it's part of the MoCA or not. But essentially, the LLMs are pretty bad at visual tasks. So that's why I think it's a little bit tricky to talk about these models as one thing, because for the tasks that they could do with the text, they were actually pretty good, but they consistently failed on the visual tasks. Even the Stroop test, where you have differences. So I think there are several parts of the Stroop test, but the main one and the most difficult one is when there is a color, the word for color written on the screen, but the color of the writing is different, and you have to say one or the other. I don't remember. I passed it once, but it was years ago. And basically, so it's the interference test, and the model was actually confused by that. I think so. It's Stroop test. Well, they don't detail the results here, but yeah, the models were not really good. And in this figure, we can see the performance in the MoCA, with their MoCA score of each model. And we can see the threshold to have a mild cognitive impairment. The threshold is at 26, and only one model, ChatGPT 4.0, reached this threshold. So only that model could be considered as not cognitively impaired. So that's so their argument is that, oh, like a lot of people are worried that some jobs are going to be replaced by AI, and especially in in the medical fields. And their argument is that maybe we shouldn't trust AIs with cognitive impairments to work in research. I think it's a little bit of a spurious connection. I think LLMs are specialized, and that's why they are not very good in a general cognitive score. And also, they are not humans, so maybe it's weird to make them pass human cognitive tests. Yeah, so as I said, the visual, spatial, and executive functions, they are not very good. And then they also have some interpretations. So, for example, they what I described with ChatGPT giving an over detailed drawing that was not actually following the instructions. They say that it could be interpreted as paragraphia. Uh, I I googled paragraphia because I didn't know what it was, and um, as I understand it, it's a problem with characters. So I'm not entirely sure why that would be a good interpretation. But also, I don't think we can compare the visual models to how the brain handles images. And another thing is with the clock drawing test. So there is one test where you have to draw a clock and with the hands at the right place for a time that that they give you in the instructions, and all the models are completely failing at that. And actually, it's a pretty well-known problem, and that actually illustrates why I think we should be careful with the conclusions, because in that case, the so first the visual model doesn't have the understanding of language that the LLM has. So it doesn't understand instructions in the same way. The visual model doesn't really um, uh, its goal is not to complete a text. So when we ask a question, it doesn't understand that it has to answer. There is nothing like that in the visual model. It's just taking a text and then trying to make a picture that corresponds to the text. And in that case, that's the problem, because the training data of the visual models, they got images of watches or clocks. And the thing is, the vast majority of the ads for watches, they show the exact same time. Apparently, it's because it looks like a smile. So it's 10 past 10. So on the clock, it makes like a triangle, inverted triangle, and it looks like a smile apparently, and apparently that increases the sales. And that's why the vast majority of the training data of visual models with clocks are always this configuration. So when you ask an LLM, an LLM that has a visual model, I tried yesterday, and it's literally impossible to get it to do another configuration than 10 past 10 on the clock. And it's just because it's a different model. So in that case, I'm not sure it's a good example. I don't think we can conclude that they are cognitively impaired. I think they are just not cognitively abled for now. I don't think it's a good comparison, but I think it's a good experiment to do because um, we should think like, because the models look more and more like act more and more human-like, and at some point we will have to um, think of what are the differences. We have to understand how they work. Um, and another thing that they are trying in the paper is saying that large language models, so the older they are, so the older their release date is, the more signs of cognitive decline they show. So um, um, they do an analogy between the older versions of large language models and humans that are aging, and are susceptible to cognitive decline. I think this is also a bad analogy. I like maybe I'm too finicky, but they talk about that in the limitations. They are not, of course, they are not saying like all the things that we say are the truth, and that's how it is. Large language models have cognitive declines like humans stuff. No, they acknowledge that they are taking liberties with the terms that they use. But I think this one, the analogy between the aging of humans and the release dates of large language models is not a good analogy because it's completely different. And some models also are like their structure is completely different. So it's not that we for some models it's not that they just got more power. They also got more features, different structures, new ways to train them. Um, whereas in the brain, I don't think it's that simple to explain cognitive decline. Um, and yeah, the thing that I think the main criticism that I have on the paper is considering the visual spatial skills on the same level as the rest. Mm. And um, mm, yeah, yeah, some things that they say, the chatbots, they call them chatbots, the large language models are sometimes hallucinating responses, um, and they say like all sentient beings. I don't know if it's a way to be a little bit provocative, uh, saying that large language models are sentient beings. I don't think we're at that point yet. Um, and also the protestations made by some chatbots that they are in fact virtual machines, when we ask them what their location is. I don't. First, I don't think it's relevant. And also, they say, "Oh, well, we know the location of these LLMs. We know where their servers are, so they should be able to answer." I don't even think it's relevant. Like, there might just be a safety in the LLMs to say like, just don't talk about the location. Like anytime you have someone who asks you about the location of the servers, don't reply because it's dangerous for the company or whatever. I think it's just that. So in the end, I like the experiment. I think we should actually be considering the parallel between humans and machine learning models. Not that we should act as if they were sentient. I think we can use machine learning models to study if we make a parallel between how the neuronal networks work and the artificial networks work, we might get some insight on how the brain works. That might be a way to test a lot of things, but of course, we have to be careful that for now, the artificial networks are nowhere near the complexity, but also the structure of the brain. It's completely different. We don't have the same structures, but I think at some point there will be some parallels to do. So that's why I think this paper can still be interesting. And yeah, I hope is gonna spark some discussions.
Oh, I'm sure it will. There's plenty of discussion in the chat already, and the hands are flying. I think Mish was first.
Hi there. I had a question from Nina. So let's bring it into something simple. Imagine that, forget about ChatGPT and everything. Imagine like you testing the intelligence of aliens coming on the planet, and you give them that test, and obviously they fail the below 26. But is that enough to assume that they're not intelligent? I'm doing that on purpose, not to try to think about it. But large language model are not humans, so testing them as humans
Yeah.
and then judging them as not smart enough or less smart than humans is kind of an overstatement.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And as I said, there are some tests that I don't think are relevant because they are not designed like humans. They are not even
Right.
designed to do we are not designed to do specific tasks, whereas machine learning models are. And for example, the visual models, their task is not to reason at all. Their point is just to generate one image. So of course they are bad at visual reasoning. And yeah, that would be the same. I mean, not even aliens. If we were giving the test to other animals on Earth that have massive brains, that would be a terrible way to decide whether they are intelligent or not. Because they might not see the world in the same way that, for example, if we were asking a whale what a clock is, it wouldn't know. And if you
And
decide,
it doesn't have hands to draw it.
yeah, I mean, maybe you could find a way, like you tape some pencil on their fin or something.
Well, you say that there's online you find a lot of videos of animals doing the drawings. But
Yeah.
There is this pig that is doing paintings. Every
there's a
painting
pig, there's a
is
dog,
sold like
There's a horse as well, I think I've
yeah.
seen.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the painting are like hundreds of thousands of years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe we should stop research and training pigs. So yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to straight up compare their intelligence. I think it's a fun experiment. It could be nominated for an Ig Nobel, but I don't think it's the way we should compare large language models and humans.
But like one of the points they also make in the paper is that AI may replace the examination, right? So in that sense, it needs to be at least good enough to detect when humans fall below the cutoff score. In that sense, is more than just a quirky experiment. But my question for you is where the training data comes from, because you need a lot of training data, right? And I don't think it's easy to get the ethics to use actual MoCA data for it.
Yeah, well, also, yeah, there could be some weird things between the images that are used in the MoCA, and also like if you were training the model only on images that are useful for the MoCA tests, they
Yeah.
could do it perfectly at every trial. So that's why I don't think it's super relevant to do that, because it's just a matter of training. If suddenly you gave billions or millions of images of watches in every configuration with the annotated description, the model would be perfect at drawing clocks in every configuration. But at the same time, this model specifically wouldn't be able to reply any text because it's a
Right.
visual model. So yeah, I don't think it's a good analogy.
I'm gonna head over to Eduardo, then Eva, then Lilith.
Hey, Chris, thank you for the presentation. Always nice. I don't think this is a good experiment for an Nobel Prize, but it's related to the question that I have for you more in general about all these experiments using large language models to study stuff related to cognition. And it's like, what do you think about the replication of these studies? Because they're using like company models to do experiments, and we don't really know what's going on under the hood. So how can we replicate this kind of studies, for example? And the
Yeah, I
models are
mean,
always
if
changing.
we
So
were I mean, the thing is, they already use different versions of the same model, and you can already see that between two versions, you have pretty different performances. And if you were training your own model, or if you were using a completely different model that is open source or whatever, you would probably have completely different results. But even more than that, I feel that in some cases, the prompt is extremely important, and sometimes the LLM might not understand the prompt correctly. It's like there are some cases, for example, one task that LLMs have been struggling with for a while is counting the number of R's in strawberry, in the word strawberry. They always say two. Um, and it's just because of the nature of the task. Um, so I don't think I've read exactly what it is, but I think it's just because the LLM is splitting the words in tokens, and the two R's of strawberry, the last two R's, they are probably in the same token. So because the model is not seeing independent letters, it's seeing several letters that are making a token. But then when you ask the model to spell the word strawberry, it's gonna write each letter one by one on on a line, and it's gonna count it, and it's gonna count the right number. So just the prompt could give very different results, so it could give very different performance. So then if we talk about different models, it would be even worse, because also they would react differently to different prompts. Some models would not be able to count strawberry, the R's in strawberry in with the same prompt. It's it would probably be very difficult to reproduce with different models, and also you don't know if at some point, because ChatGPT, OpenAI, they've been doing that. They've been doing changes in the model when there is a very big flaw. They're like, oh, this model is not able to do this specific task. For example, at the beginning, I think it was very bad at math, and they retrained the model, they fine-tuned it, and they gave a specific training data to improve the model specifically for that. But then it's irrelevant, because it's not general intelligence that we are measuring. It's just how well they trained it for this specific task.
Just so you know,
yeah.
they fixed the R issue. It now says
They
three.
did now.
Yeah.
Not that long ago. Yeah, it depends on the model that you use. If you use the old
Well,
fall,
Mish just literally just tried it and put a snapshot in the chat. It's
yeah, but now it's the 4.0 version, but I tried it like a few months ago, and it was still making the mistake. So yeah, they are literally correcting some silly errors, but they are kind of correcting them by hand.
Yeah, so this also brings me to another question, which is like more in general, like or like also related to this paper, like what is the assumption behind like the comparison between large language models and actual human reasoning? Because the author, for example, say something like we reason that this was similar to instructing human patients to use a pencil and a pad of paper for the ASCII art thingy. Seems like kind of a loose assumption. I mean, it's like we
Yeah,
reason that. It's like
this one is super
uh,
wrong. Like that's a super wrong assumption.
it's like
Uh,
I mean, I'm not saying you cannot assume, but at least motivate or provide something that explain why we should do this assumption would be nice.
yeah, no, I agree that the I think it's more like a toy experiment. It's I don't think we can actually draw scientific conclusions from this paper.
Yeah, no, it's a nice
But
story.
it's I think it's more like a funny experiment. And potentially we can also think of because it's also interesting to think of like how good the analogy is, how good the comparison is, and what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And I feel that this paper is showing what we shouldn't do to compare machine learning models and humans.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I think Eva was after me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. It's not so much a question, it's more a comment that I wasn't particularly surprised because all these pages where you have to prove that you're human, all these captchas are based on spatial reasoning. And yeah, I was just wondering if you have maybe a clue of if they start training models on this, what might be the next thing that differentiates us from machines for this kind of purpose.
Yeah, so apparently for the captchas, they were, I think they were indeed using the basically the annotations that humans were doing on captchas to train machine learning models. But I think now to actually detect that you're human, it's not the if you're not making mistakes or if you're detecting the object correctly or not. It's more on the behavior with your mouse and stuff. So because when you're gonna click on a picture, you're not gonna do a robotic trajectory where you're gonna go straight.
Yeah, but that
Uh,
can be programmed very easily as well.
Yeah, but it's very difficult to reproduce because you could think, oh, I just need to do a random trajectory, right? But the problem is humans are very bad at doing random.
No, no, you can just take a bunch of trajectories that people did and train a model on mouse trajectories, human mouse.
Well, I'm not sure it's so.
No?
The thing is, there are already some tools that can solve captchas. So maybe not all the captchas, but people are constantly trying to beat the captchas with automated tools because that's also like there are a lot of reasons why you would want to automatically pass a captcha. And a lot of people are trying to do that and succeeding. That's why they are producing newer versions of captchas. Because remember the captchas before, they were just like trying to write the letters that were a little bit like messed up on the screen. And now most of the time there are pictures where you have to detect an object. And also the object is becoming more and more difficult to see in the picture. The pictures are with more and more details and stuff. So it's because they have to evolve the captchas because people are beating them automatically.
Yeah.
I'm going to give the floor to Lilith.
Hi, Chris. Thank you. It's just a quick also comment. So I just came across, I don't know, recently another example with the error that ChatGPT might do. So if you ask to draw a picture with a person holding writing with his left hand,
Yeah.
it would still keep drawing with the right one.
Yeah.
So it's another like example of the fact that it was trained on the specific type of data. That's why it's going to produce something similar. But it's funny that it cannot draw you a person writing with a left hand, but if you ask to, I don't know, draw some crazy picture of like a green tiger, it will do it perfectly. So it's funny. And the second thing is, well, at least now we know that like OpenAI doesn't have any data was leaked to ChatGPT concerning the MoCA testing screening. So that's good, no?
For now, because as I said, when they see that there is a silly mistake that their model is doing, they pretty quickly try to fix the problem to pretend that their model is stronger. I mean, sometimes it's actually like mistakes that they should fix. But in that case, I don't know if it's really something useful to make the model able to pass the MoCA test. But
Yeah.
they might do it now that there is this paper. They might be like, "Oh shit, there is this task that our model is not able to do. We have to take all the MoCA test the data and train on it, and the model is going to become amazing at it." Although I think the difference between LLM and visual models will be tricky to fix because, as I said, the visual model is not reasoning. And that's why it's struggling with the drawing the different writing hand tests, the pictures, but also the clock. And I'm sure there are many examples where the model is struggling with the logic, because the thing is, if you ask the LLM to describe a picture, and then you tell it, I want this picture to have this difference. It will also describe the difference, and it will explain it in like regarding the position in space and stuff. So it understands to a degree. It can. I mean, of course, people will complain that we call that reasoning, but it can understand things, whereas the visual model, it doesn't. It's just, if it saw this specific configuration in the training data, if because also it's how the images were annotated, and in the training data there was probably no annotation specifically saying, oh, the writer might use their left hand to write with a pencil. And maybe it just had someone is writing with a pencil and loads of images like that. So it's got a bunch of variations of someone writing with a pencil, but because the majority of people are right-handed, it just considers that all the people who are writing are writing with one hand. So it didn't have the details of what's happening in the image.
Yeah. Makes sense. Thanks.
Thank you. That's all the time we have this morning. Exciting paper, a lot of discussion. There's more that we can talk about, but offline. So thanks for joining this morning. Have an exciting week in science, and see you next week. Bye.
See ya.